I think that there is a lot of there to Ethereum being the base where Wall Street is going to build a lot of the future. I think Ethereum can reach 60,000 per token in that world. And that would proportionally benefit the DATs because Ethereum's around 4,500 today. So a 15 times increase plus the NAV expansion. So there would be a lot of upside in the existing Ethereum treasury stocks in that world. And many would become multiple hundreds of billions of dollars of market cap.
So Tom Lee is talking about a potential $60,000 Ethereum one day. He's obviously optimistic. Certainly that contrasts with what a lot of other people think. There is a sentiment out there, growing or otherwise, you be the judge, but a lot of people are saying that Ethereum's best days are behind it as a project. Analysts claim that the bull run is over, certain ones. But on the other hand, if you were to agree with Tom Lee and those in his circles, then you're going to be of the opinion that we stand right now on the precipice of one of the biggest setups in cryptocurrency's history. There are three specific catalysts in particular that are all unfolding right now simultaneously. For the most part, they appear to be invisible to retail traders because, of course, the crypto market is what it is right now. Not that great. But these are catalysts that are very important at a fundamental level, and some are arguing there's a case to be made here that they could push Ethereum and ETH, of course, ETH, towards $8,000 by December 2025. Hype is one thing, hopium is one thing. I do my best not to dabble in that. We're looking at data instead, objective numbers, metrics, timing, and something that the whales are also paying attention to, by the way. Welcome to the channel. My name is Maddie and this is Altcoin Buzz. All the best of luck if you choose to invest. Okay, maybe you're into ETH, maybe you think it's undervalued at the moment, maybe you're way past it and you couldn't care less. But look, if you're in altcoins, crypto, even Bitcoin, more generally speaking, then I do wish you well. Genuinely. But of course, I'm not a financial or investment advisor, nor is this video official financial or investment advice. First and foremost, who's this Tom Lee that we keep referring to, that we keep quoting? If you've been in the crypto space for a while, you probably know who we're talking about, but certainly he's not a household name. He is the co-founder of Fundstrat and the president right now of Bitmine. Fundstrat is an independent financial research firm. It provides strategic market insights to various customers, and these are rooted in emotion-free, evidence-based research. So objective, empirical, at least that's the mission and that's the idea. Bitmine, on the other hand, is a Bitcoin mining company, but at the same time, it's also happens to be the biggest holder of ETH. That's because it switched to a 100% ETH Treasury strategy. Very bold. And just a couple of days ago, on the 20th of October, that's the last snapshot that we can consider here. That is when Bitmine held 3.34 million ETH. For context, that's 2.7% of all the currently available Ether that's out there. And then just 24 hours later, so yesterday on the 21st of October, they bought another 63,500 ETH worth about $184 million, taking advantage of basically the sale that Ether is on right now and the kind of difficult market prices that we're all dealing with. But smart money buys on the dip. But what I find particularly interesting is that Bitmine didn't announce this Ethereum treasury strategy until relatively recently, the 30th of June. Bitmine did announce that it raised $250 million for this. However, only a month later, Bitmine reported holding over 560,000 Ether, or $2 billion worth, as part of this treasury, $2 billion worth at the time. Obviously, that's a lot more than the $250 million they talked about earlier. But back to Tom Lee, the individual, for just a moment. We'll switch gears here. Like I said, if you've been around the space, if you're in your second or third crypto cycle, perhaps even fourth, kudos if that's the case, then you're going to know Tom Lee. In 2018, he predicted, now accurately, a $125,000 Bitcoin by 2022. So he was off a little bit. This was when the BTC price was still under $10,000. On the whole, though, as far as a macro prediction, pretty reliable. Yes, Lee was 3 years off with that particular prediction, but it does show why people are paying attention to him. And during the recent Token 2049 conference, this happened in September in Singapore, Tom Lee made some other bold BTC price predictions. He said that in the short term, he expects BTC to hit $140,000.
If you look at Bitcoin's price, and we think it'll be at least $250,000 by the end of this year, okay, that's the rose. So it's the second to last row. If Ethereum price ratio gets to its 8-year average of 0.0479, that implies 12,000 per Ethereum token. If it gets to its 2021 high, which I think is justifiable given how much is happening fundamentally on Ethereum, that's $22,000 per ETH.
So by year's end, Lee expects Bitcoin to be around $200,000, possibly $250,000, despite the recent market upset that we've seen. And by the way, he's also had a pretty optimistic long-term view of up to $2.2 million if BTC's value reaches parity with gold. To put that in perspective, the Bitcoin price was around $111,000 to $112,000 during the time of that video, that discussion that you just saw. And as you also heard in terms of Ethereum, which is of course the subject of today's video, Lee expects a price target of $10,000, $11,000, maybe $12,000 for 2025. Now, September, the Token 2049 conference, that did happen before the October 10th flash crash. So call that a black swan event, whatever. But as you already saw at the start of the video, for ETH, he sees eventually long-term, and that's the important thing, a $60,000 price tag, which represents about a 15 or so X from where we are currently. He also expects ETH to overtake BTC. That is perhaps the boldest prediction beyond just the figures and the prices per se. So I think it's safe to say that Tom Lee and Bitmine together are important factors in terms of ETH reaching a new all-time high by the end of the year. Really, it's a simple analogy and one that's readily used, but what Michael Saylor and Strategy, they're no longer MicroStrategy, they are now Strategy. What Michael Saylor and Strategy are doing and have done for Bitcoin, Tom Lee and Bitmine seem to be doing for Ethereum. Quick shout out to Surge here. This is our risk-free prediction game that's available on Telegram. And in this game, you just swipe left or right. You can kind of think Hamster Combat or even Tinder. You're swiping to guess whether a crypto asset pumps or dumps. And in the process, you earn rewards. And actually, hopefully, you can pick up some market skills as well while you're at it in the form of technical analysis. They've also kicked off a weekly giveaway. It's a contest that is super simple. Every week, there's a coin of the week. And this week, it is Trump, Trump. And all you have to do is swipe to find it in the Surge app. Then once you see it, screenshot it and then drop it under their tweet. One random reply wins $50 in USDT. It is super easy, but in order to win and have a chance at winning, of course, you have to at least participate. So check out Surge, have some fun swiping, and maybe snag some cool prizes along the way. Check out the links, the URLs in the description of this video below to participate. Okay, second major variable here in Catalyst to consider is the major institutional and treasury accumulation that we're seeing. ETH Treasury accumulation, of course, specifically. I just told you about Tom Lee and Bitmine. They are currently the world's largest ETH holders officially. However, there are other companies, there are other players in the space that are dabbling in this whole Ethereum treasury strategy. Let's take a look at some of these and exactly by the numbers how much they hold in terms of ETH. SharpLink Gaming on NASDAQ, their ticker is SBET. They hold 859,000 ETH. That's worth about $3.3 billion at current prices, and it's also staking ETH and earning passive income that way. This is kind of one that's been flying under the radar for the most part. We're not discussing it very actively in crypto circles, but SharpLink holding an enormous amount of Ethereum. Bit Digital on NASDAQ, their ticker is BTBT. They hold around 150,000 ETH. That is worth $580 million. And during the last 30 days, they bought an extra nearly 32,000 Ether. Coinbase Global on NASDAQ, of course, Coin, C-O-I-N. They hold 136,000 ETH worth a good $527 million. Now, this is a mix of investment and operational Ether. And certainly there are other companies out there holding Ether, but the last on this list in terms of quick highlights, ETHZilla on NASDAQ, ETHZ. They hold 102,000 ETH worth around $390 million. So certainly this is not an exhaustive list, but I want to just kind of try to give you an idea of what's going on here with ETH Treasury strategies. In total here on CoinGecko, we have 14 firms listed, and combined, they hold a total of over 4,600,000 ETH, worth about $18 billion. So this is serious business. It's becoming more and more serious, and this trend is one that is expected to continue. On the institutional side of the discussion, of course, we also have to talk about ETH spot ETFs. There are currently 9 of these out there. And the advantage of a spot ETF just in general is that an investor doesn't need to hold the underlying asset. They can kind of invest in Ether or whatever asset is in question, but they can invest kind of at arm's length. And so the beauty of the ETF in general is that it gives investors exposure to an asset, which is attractive for institutions for a whole bunch of different reasons. So, for example, easier access, better tracking of spot prices, and generally enhanced regulatory compliance, almost certainly. Yesterday, we saw $141.7 million flowing into Ethereum ETFs. Out of this, BlackRock and Fidelity were good for over $101 million worth of Ethereum. And right now, what we're seeing is that many Ethereum spot ETFs are applying or even transitioning to staking ETFs, meaning they can offer that extra value to investors by earning yield and passive income, obviously, on the underlying ETH holdings. That's a huge factor because if you're a mega institution and you're staking ETFs, the APY can go up to 10%. Obviously, this is going to attract institutions and the smart money, the big treasury strategy kind of players out there. If you think about 10% on $1 billion, that's $100 million passively, really for nothing, for staking an asset that you already have a lot of faith in. Currently, institutions and ETFs make up 10% of all ETH holdings. This Altcoin Buzz Spotlight video is sponsored by Bitget. Because if you ever wanted an all-in-one platform for crypto, or even stocks, by the way, you've got to check out Bitget. Honestly, this exchange is changing the game, but it's much more than just an exchange. It's got spot trading, futures, margin, and even copy trading. Plus, it also supports a lot of coins and trading pairs, all with competitive fees. Security is taken very seriously too, with proof of reserves and a protection fund, together meaning that you can trade with peace of mind. No other tier 1 exchange protects your security this well. And the coolest thing is that Bitget is moving towards being a universal platform, meaning that you can now trade tokenized US stocks like Apple, Nvidia, right on the blockchain, all by using USDC without needing a traditional broker or even leading the exchange for another platform. And if you're into futures, then Bitget's stock futures let you speculate on price movements with up to 10 times leverage using a composite index of stock tokens. It's super beginner friendly and a perfect way to explore the market. Getting started is super easy. Sign up, do your ID verification, deposit USDT or USDC, and you're ready to trade. By signing up to Bitget, you also have the chance to earn bonuses of up to $6,200. Try Bitget today and get those bonuses. Here's how. Check out the links in the description of this video, but you can sign up to Bitget today using links for global users, for UK users, or this one if you're in mainland Europe. Check out the links in the description of this video.
Tom Lee's confidence in Ethereum is built on one major shift: the movement of real-world assets onto the blockchain. He sees a world where not just currencies, but real estate, stocks, and even loyalty rewards become tokenized. These tokens, sitting on transparent and programmable systems like Ethereum, could unlock markets worth tens of trillions of dollars, far beyond what most forecasts dare to imagine. Revisiting the flippening, the long-debated idea that Ethereum's market cap could someday overtake Bitcoin's, the analyst remains bullish on Bitcoin's role as digital gold, but envisions Ethereum as the platform where the real economy thrives, just as equities once outgrew gold's value decades ago. Lee calls this year the beginning of that transformation, when Wall Street starts constructing its digital foundation atop Ethereum. Even stablecoins are described as the ChatGPT moment for crypto, evidence that blockchain's biggest revolutions emerge from real-world utility, not hype. Yet Lee stays cautious about potential pitfalls. A sharp decline in staking could challenge Ethereum's proof-of-stake security. Still, the network's flawless uptime and accelerating institutional adoption stand as powerful proof that it's ready to shoulder the weight of global finance.
On to the third major catalyst now when it comes to the potential that's out there for the price of Ether. It's the unlocking of RWAs on Ethereum, or real-world markets. Effectively, that would make Ethereum the monetary base. For context here, RWA tokenization on ETH is just something that's going to unlock billions, like many billions of dollars. This year, for example, the RWA market has exploded from about $8.6 billion to $25 billion. And that's just so far. That's just the first 6 months of 2025. Now, I like to say that it's probably best to take this with a grain of salt, but by 2030, it's a market, the RWA market. It's one that analysts are saying could go anywhere between $10 trillion and $30 trillion. And that's because tokenizing bonds, but also real estate, loans, and other commodities onto Ethereum bridges TradFi and DeFi. And obviously that's going to bring me back to Tom Lee, because he is arguing that ETH is going to benefit because institutions will stake ETH while tokenizing their assets on chain. Lee also argues that this is going to increase revenues from fees, which in turn will drive up the value of Ether. And this is certainly possible. If we consider today's daily revenue numbers, yeah, they remain the same, but that's actually despite a 100-fold to a 1,000-fold increase in tokenized asset value over the last 5 years, meaning that RWAs are going to need a much higher turnover in sales to achieve this. Certainly, Tom Lee may have a good point here. And another feature to take into consideration is fractionalization of RWAs, which gives opportunities for more and more transactions.
We have to think of Ethereum as the monetary base and the standard. So let's say I'm being really theoretical, in a quote world where the L2s pay zero gas fees, okay, to the L1, which is not true.
Mm-hmm.
The fact that Ethereum is the monetary base would actually accrue value to it. It's the same reason someone's saying, hey, look, we trade stocks all day and it's quoted in dollars, but we don't pay the US dollar system to exist. We'd be
right.
The fact that NVIDIA trades in the US helps the dollar. So that's why even if there was no exchange between the two, it accrues value. But of course, we know that they're trying to fix that. And so L2s want to support L1s. And of course, in the future, any bank that is going to be building on the future of Ethereum is going to be staking Ethereum as well.
Tom Lee sees Ethereum as the so-called monetary base. That means it is the foundational layer supporting DeFi, RWAs, and all of on-chain finance. He compares it to central banks, really, that control fiat-based money. So in his view, Ethereum secures all digital assets and liquidity. Furthermore, Lee also argues staking demand rises with ecosystem growth, and I think it's actually a pretty logical argument. It's kind of like banks holding reserves, right? More economic activity means more ETH locked to ensure trust and security, meaning that ETH is the digital base money. Now you stake it, and now you can earn yield on that monetary base. So when it comes to guys like Tom Lee, they are just about the most bullish that you can possibly be for assets like Ethereum, but obviously he's got a horse in the race. Objectively speaking, and maybe from an unbiased position, or maybe you do have some bias, I don't know, but let me know what your price prediction is for ETH, let's say at the end of this year, 2025, perhaps next year, assuming it peaks then. Let me know in the comments below, and also be sure to join our social media discussions. X and Discord are both very lively, and you can find those links in the description of this video.